All right, good night, everyone. Welcome back to another class. So, chapter 7.3, we wrapped that up last week where we were looking at the different functions, how to develop a spreadsheet. We looked at using the different functions, and then we ended off with looking at the exercises on how to make use of those functions even more. Please remember it's important for you to remember how VLOOKUP works, how if works, how count if, those technical functions. If you don't remember them, always go over the exercise, watch back the previous recording to get yourself a refresher, because when the SBA comes, the spreadsheet part of the SBA, remember I said or I'm not sure if I told you guys, but I think I did, that for IT, there's 5 main topics that you're gonna learn. This term is spreadsheet, next term is database, the other term is Word. When you get into fifth form, it's web page and programming. And each one of those 5 parts have an SBA. It's one big SBA, but just that it has 5 parts relating to the 5 parts, the 5 topics that you're going to be learning. So it's important for you to remember everything that you're learning here in spreadsheet. Don't ask why we're not starting at this in this term, because I do not have an answer for you. But just know that it's either next term or the other term, but sometime soon you'll be getting that. And you have to remember everything that you're learning here so that you can put it into practice for that SBA. So especially the exercises, they help you to remember that. So like for instance, when the you get your SBA, you can do over the exercises in your groups, and that will help you to go through the SBA smoothly. Good. So we're starting chapter 7.4 today. We're looking at how to format a spreadsheet. Why are we looking at how to format a spreadsheet? Well, so far, with the chapters that we've considered, you can think of it as it's in a logical manner. Chapters that we looked at so far. So firstly, in chapter 7.1, we basically looked at the layout of spreadsheets. We looked at the layout and what are the names of different features and so on. And then in 7.2, we did something similar also. We learned about different aspects of spreadsheet and so on. But then in 7.3, we looked at how when we put in information, when we put in our data, like for example this here, how we can use formulas, how we can use functions, and so on to do our calculation, to do our presentation of the data. So we already put in data, we put in our formulas, we do our calculations, and so on. So 7.4 is how we are formatting that data. Does anyone have an idea when you say you're formatting something, what it means, EDPM students? When you're formatting something, any idea what that means? You can put it in your own words. When you hear something is being formatted?
So you're altering the appearance of it, you're editing it to fit something that you have in mind.
Good, that sounds good. Yes, Gavandi?
Sir was saying making an adjustment.
Good. Anyone else?
Sir, the way the data is displayed.
What about it?
Sir, it adjusts the way or the features of the data.
Okay, good. Good. So seems you guys have the right idea. So formatting deals with appearance. So how does the data look? So you should know by now, for example, let me open up a spreadsheet. I think I can make it here. Yes, you should know by now about changing the format of numbers. So say for example you have this number here. You can change the format of it. You can put it as a currency. You can put it as a date. You can put it as a time. You can put it as a percentage. So we are changing its appearance. That is basically formatting. You're changing it to represent the type of data that you want it to look like. So for example, if you just leave it as that, and especially for those of you who are science students, your science teacher might ask you, what question would they ask you when they see this number here? What's the first question they're gonna ask you?
Sir?
Sir, probably with the SI unit or what's the
The question is, as science students or as any students, when you see these numbers here, but as especially science students, when you're doing science and you put your answer and you just put a number, what does the teacher tell you about that number when you just put a number?
Sir, the unit of measurement?
Right, the unit of measurement. They're gonna ask you 87,000 of what? That's what they're gonna ask you. 87,000 of what? What are you talking about? 87,000 peanuts? 87,000 crayons? What are you talking about? So the same thing. This is basically the same reason why you would want to format your data. 87,000 what? Is it 87,000 percentage? Is it 87,000 in currency? What is it? Is it 87,000 maybe in related to something with dates? What is it? So that's basically why you would want to format your data to put it into a presentable way that when persons look at it, they know what they're reading, they understand what it is. So we're going to be looking at that today. How can you format your data? We're going to be looking at formatting numbers, the different alignments, and even how to protect your data. So say for instance, Jahi made a spreadsheet and the spreadsheet contains all of his sales that he was making, then he can protect it from Keslin. So Keslin doesn't see what sales he was making. You can put a password on it and basically protect the spreadsheet from her. So let's get started. Formatting features. We're gonna start from the bottom. Mika, can you read for us?
Formatting features. You can use a variety of formatting features such as bold, alignment, and font size to display your data effectively. The options on the Home tab or the Format cells feature can change the number format, change the alignment of text or data, format text and individual characters, add different kinds of borders, shade cells with colors or patterns.
Great. So
Um,
good. So what are some of the formattings that we have? This is just a few of them. We have bold, we have alignment, we can change font size, and where are they located? They are located on the Home tab. Remember these titles above the ribbon? Home, insert, draw, page layout. We call them tabs. TABS. So this is the page layout tab, formulas tab, and so on. So on the home is where you're gonna find a majority of format features. So we have bold here, we have italic, We have underline. We have our borders. We can change the cell color. We can change the text color. We can decrease the size, increase the size, change the font, change the alignment, margin center, wrap text. Excuse me. Um, Changing the format of the number. All of those are the formatting options that you have there. Now, it also said it's under the home tab, but you can also use the format cell feature. So where is this format cell feature? Well, if you click on this arrow right here, you're gonna notice a box comes up. Any one of these arrows, it's gonna take you to the same box. But if you notice, it has tabs also. It has about 6 tabs. It has the number tab where you can format numbers even more. The alignment tab, font tab. I think I showed you guys this box already, right? Or I didn't. No, I don't think I did. So I think I showed you that you can right click on it and format cells, and you get the same box also. So you have 2 ways of getting it. Or you can even, when you click on this arrow here, and when you go to more number formats, it's the same box it is taking you. So you have 3 ways of getting to this box, and it basically gives you like more options for formatting your data. So going back to the paragraph, what you can do, you can change the number format, change alignment, format the text, individual characters. You can add borders. You can shade the cells, put colors, put patterns, and so on. All of that is a part of formatting. So let's look at the format cells box, this box here. What are the options for formatting we have? Well, you should remember this number column, this number tab, because you would have used it for changing the number format. For example, changing the currency, accounting. And if you notice, the reason why we use this box is because we get more options, as I mentioned. So you can get different types of currency, um, other formats of date, other ways of representing the date, how many decimal places. You can even get fractions, all inside of this box here. Now, what about the other tabs? We have the alignment tab. So the very first option, horizontal alignment. So horizontal is left to right. So that is basically this alignment here that you're seeing. You see it outside here. This is left align, right align, center. So that's the horizontal alignment. But if you notice when you go in here, you can also get fill, you can get justify, center across, distributed, and so on. So you have more options for horizontal. Now what about vertical? Vertical is up and down. So let me extend the cell height. So you have the option in the top here. You can go center, you can go the bottom of the cell, top of the cell, center of the cell, the bottom. If you go into here, cells, we click here, we can also get justify, we can also get distributed, and so on. So that's it for alignment. Now what about wrap text? So wrap text, anybody know what wrap text does? Anybody ever tried it?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
So you guys should know that when you type information like this here and it extends outside of the cell, you're gonna see it if there's no data in the cell after it. When you put something after, it's gonna basically cut it off. You won't be able to see what else is inside of it. So there's more data, but you cannot see. So what the wrap text does now, it wraps everything inside of that cell. So however you resize it, it's going to wrap the information inside of that cell. Obviously, once again, when you get too small, it's going to cut it off, but it's going to try to wrap it inside of the cell so that you can see the information. If you turn it off, notice it can go straight again, horizontal, but if I turn on back the wrap text, it's going to try to wrap all of the data inside of the cell. You guys hear that?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so that's wrap text there. Now going back to the alignment tab in the format cells box, we have shrink to fit. Anybody want to make a guess on that one? Turn off that.
I'm just showing the info to make it fit.
Exactly. It shrinks the information so that it fits inside the cell instead of wrapping the cell. So if you click OK, anybody can see that? Right at the bottom here. See this?
No, sir. Oh, yeah.
See this here? Looks familiar? So this is the data, but it's now shrunk to fit inside of the cell there. So if I enlarge it, you're going to see it gets bigger. Notice this is getting bigger. But when I make the cell smaller, it's going to shrink to fit. So it shrinks to fit the cell. So wrap text wraps the information inside the cell, whereas shrink to fit is going to constantly shrink the data to fit exactly inside of the cell. Because if you notice earlier when I said that we use the wrap text, it wrapped the information inside the cell, but it's not fitting. If you notice here, it's not fitting. Only when you enlarge it to a certain point. So even though you could say they're slightly the same, it's also how much information you will get to see. Alright, we also have merge cells. You guys should know what merge cell is. And then we have text direction. Do we want it left to right, which is normally how we type, or do you want it right to left? Alright, alright, so you guys ever noticed that when you have some headings, heading 1, heading 2, some documents would have some fancy shape of the headings. They might have it diagonal. You guys ever saw that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, that there is when you use, we could go back into the format cells, highlight these headings here, and go into format cells. And if you notice on the right hand side of the alignment tab, we have this orientation slider over here. And when you move it, it basically moves the data to that degree. If you look at the bottom, 45 degree. So it's now going to position the text at 45 degree. Let me put it back at 45. Click OK. So notice my headings now is at a 45 degree angle in spreadsheet. So that's how you create those fancy headings in the spreadsheet.
Sir,
Yes.
can you please show how to get the heading diagonally again?
So you go into, you basically gonna highlight what you want to format first. So in this case, I'm gonna highlight my headings. So, and then you go into that format cells box once again. Use any method. You could right click and go to format cells, but you want this box here. And under alignment, to the very right, you're going to see orientation. And you basically move the slider, this red dot here, you move it to position to whatever angle you want it. So now we're going to put it at -45 and click OK. So notice my heading in the other direction now. Clear? Keela?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody with any other questions? What else do we have?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's all for the alignment tab. For font, well, we have all the different fonts here that you can choose from. You can see whether it's regular, whether it's italic, bold, and bold and italic. You can change the font size. You can save this on the line. Notice you can do double on the line. So say I'm going to highlight these two headings. And because I don't, what is the arrow here? Oh, I actually never clicked on that arrow. I have double on the line. Surprisingly, I've never clicked on that. You guys do that?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Well, tonight we learned something. Double on the line. Alright, what else do we have? So, we have double. What is single content? So, it looks like it's underlined, but it's much lower. Yeah. Notice the difference. This one is single accounting. This one goes a little lower. The underline is a little lower. Let me turn off this. So if you want to turn it off, you basically set back the angle to 0. Okay. And you get back your correct orientation. So we have double underline, single underline, and this one is a single accounting. What about double accounting? So I guess, yeah, there's a double line there at the bottom. What else do we have? We have strike through, we have superscript and subscript. Well, those are out here. Where's that word? No, I don't see them being out here. Yeah. So if you want to make, so say for instance you want 6 to the power of 2, you highlight that, you go to format cells. Notice this is only showing you font because I right clicked. We can do superscript, and we got 6 to the 2 power of 2. If you want to do subscript, highlight once again, right click, format cells, subscript, and we have 6 to the 2 there. If you want to strike through, highlight once again, strike through, and the numbers are strike through there. What else do we have? You can change the color, you can put normal font, and so on. So that's it for the font. Border, you can add different styles of borders here. Change the color, say which border you don't want. Say for instance you only want the sides, only an outline. For fill, this is fill in the cell, so no color or specific color. Say for instance we want red inside the cell, we have a red fill here. But that's outside here also. This option here, that's the fill option also. And pattern, say if you want a pattern, where is it? Fill effect, and say for instance this color there, Okay, so notice we have a pattern with background color. So it's not just a solid color. You can change up the effect. Say for instance we want blue and yellow, not a brighter yellow. Yes, blue and yellow. We want this one here. Yes. So we got fancy colors inside of our data there. But please don't do that. That is not a professional color design. I know some of you might do that. Oh, there's pattern here. So you can change the pattern behind. Alright, and lastly we have protection. Now, there's not much options here. There's only check off the lock and hidden. But if you go to, is it data? Review? Yes, review. Under the review tab, you're going to see some options to protect your sheet. So you can put a password at the top here. So if Anaya wants to protect our sheet, this sheet here, she can type in a password here and basically check off allow users of this worksheet to. So if she don't want them to do something, if she don't want them to delete rows and columns, she can uncheck it so that they can open it, they can look at it, but they won't be able to do those things. You can protect the entire workbook, so they won't get to open the file without the password. Allow range edits and so on. So those are two things that you can protect with your worksheet. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright. So those are a majority of the formatting features that we have here. Alright, so our next reader, Sierra, can you start from the top? And you're gonna go up to Home tab.
In the format cells dialog box, you can make the desired changes in each of the tab areas, including formatting numbers, aligning data, customizing fonts, applying borders, and shading. After making the customization changes, click OK to close the dialog box and return to worksheet. Format numbers. You can use a variety of formatting features to change a number's appearance. Right-click on a cell containing a number to view the number tab in the Format Cells dialog box, where you can choose a category of number, currency, percentage, date, and so on, a style, decimals, commas, and so on. You can also perform basic number formatting using the icons in the number section of the Home tab.
Good. Now here's a question. When you're formatting data, say for instance, I want to change these headings here. Do I have to change them one by one? Forgot it was unmuted. Muted. So here's a question. When you want to format data, do you have to format it one by one, or can you format all at the same time?
There you can format all at the same time.
But
Right, that is correct. Now, it might sound like a simple question to you, but to some persons, they don't realize that. They don't realize that you can format all at the same time. Taking it in blackout. Okay, it went away. Yes. Some persons, they don't know that you can format all at the same time. They would go to each one of these headings one by one and click on it and do this and then change it like that. But we should know that if we want to change everything at the same time, what do we have to do? What's the first thing we have to do?
Sir, highlight the cell you desire to change.
Right, correct. You have to highlight what you want to format. So say for instance, all of these headings I want to format at the same time, highlight all of it. If I want to format the entire spreadsheet at the same time, highlight all of it. So for example, maybe I want to delete everything from the spreadsheet. I highlighted everything, delete all cells. So that way now, I just cleared my entire spreadsheet there of all the data that was inside of it. So it might sound simple, but some persons, they will actually still do it one by one. Now, when it comes to numbers, we should know that we can format as currency, percentage, date, and so on. And for the styles, we can add decimal places, we can add commas, and so on. Now, I think I explained this already, that when you have a number, and in the exercise, it said to add commas, it didn't say to add currency, the dollar sign, and then decimal places, and all of that. No, there's actually a comma style option. So let me undo that. There's actually a comma style option whereby it only adds the comma and the two decimal places, where you can always reduce it if you don't want it. But for large numbers, say for instance it's just a number, then you can add the comma to it. Alright. I think we already looked at align, and yeah, I think we looked at all of these options already. So we looked at the different forms of alignment. We have horizontal alignment, vertical alignment. We looked at those. And we looked at what is wrap text. We looked at what is shrink to fit. We looked at the merge cells. Remember, there are different merge cells option. We have merge and center, merge across, and merge cells. Anybody remember what was the difference between merge across and merge cells?
Where does merge across for this information from one cell to the next cell
I didn't hear that
and then
clearly,
merge
Kivani.
Doesn't doesn't merge across. Put the same data from one cell into the next cell, and the merge cells. Put the data into both cells without separating it.
Alright, let me give somebody else a try. Good try. They they both do the same thing with the data. No matter, I think you were talking about if you have additional data in the cells, what it would do with it. Was that what you were referring to? Or just the cells by itself?
They're breaking up. I can hear you.
Alright, let me have another explanation. Somebody else want to give it a try? What's the difference between merge across and merge cells?
Sir, doesn't merge cells merge the selected cells, whereas merge across just merges the entire row across?
Very good. That is it. That is the correct answer. Merge across only merges the row. You have to remember that. Merge across only merges the rows. So even if I highlight all of this here, merge center would merge all into one. Everything would go into one cell. Whereas merge across is going to merge everything across. So you see a bunch of rows being merged together. All of these rows merged together. That's merge across and merge, whether if it's merge cell or merge in center. Alright, yeah, we basically looked at all of these options and we looked at protection. and what protection options we have, and so on. All right, so you guys saw in the other group, so you guys can start your working together on your exercises. Exercise 8 to 19 is going to be your final assignment. Afterwards, you're going to get a final quiz. Do this for homework for next week so that we can review it. Um, so yeah, that's basically it for chapter 7.4, how we can format our data. Any questions before we move on?
No, sir.
All right. Shaniqua, are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Ronlin,
Yes, sir.
Keslin?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, let's move on. Good. So 7.5. Now, as I mentioned when we started 7.4, it's basically a logical order we're going in. We put in our data in 7.3, we put in our formulas, we do our calculations and so on. 7.4, we looked at how to format those data. Now 7.5 is about locating those data, trying to find the data. So you have to imagine that this, when we're finished putting in our data, there's a lot of data in this spreadsheet. We have a lot of sheets inside of it. We have maybe like 10, 20 sheets at the bottom here with data inside of it. Data all over the place. So instead of us going and look for all of these data manually, or instead of us, when we're going to look for the data, we're looking at the original table. So say for instance, there was a table here about the items and what is the price and how much do you have in stock. So this would be an important table for the business. What item you have, what price you bought it for. So say for instance, you have cheese stick and you bought it for $6 pack and you got 40 packs in stock. Now, say for instance, just say for instance, this is your original data and you're looking at it, but you accidentally type 70. You didn't know what happened. You accidentally type 70, or maybe you accidentally type 100. Why? Because you're looking at the data and you're looking at the original, you're looking at the source, and you accidentally type over something, and it can affect your data. It can affect your business. So your business now could run at a loss because you thinking all the time you bought this cheese stick at 100 and now you gotta sell for 120, 140 and nobody gonna buy your cheese stick. So when you're after you would have put in all of your data into spreadsheet, you organized it well, you did all the calculations, you're not gonna, and you want to look back at the data, you're not gonna just go to the original source just like that and scroll through it, and then sometime you might accidentally delete something, change something, or so on, and then affect the overall data. What you're gonna do is use some of these features that we have here that will allow you to locate the data that you're looking for. So some of these features include sorting. If you guys can remember, I think it was when we were doing the rank function. When we were looking at rank, they had asked us to sort the data because the data need to be sorted first in a specific order in order for it to be ranked. And I said we would look at sorting later on. So we're going to be looking at how can we sort our data. We're going to look at the different type of filtering. We have auto filter, which is also called a simple filter. Important to remember. We're going to be looking at the advanced filter, and then we're going to look at a pivot table, and then lastly, uh, frequency distributions and pivot charts. So all of those are ways of filtering your data, searching for data, so that you can locate something specific that you want to see from your table that you would have created, from this entire spreadsheet that you would have created. Alright, so as mentioned, sorting is the first option. So let's see what is sorting. Uh, Shaniqua, can you read for us?
Sorting. You can rearrange the rows or columns of a list by sorting according to the values in that list. When you sort, Microsoft Excel rearranges rows, columns, or individual cells by using the sort order that you specified. You can sort lists in ascending 1 to A to Z, or descending 9 to 1, Z to A, or table 7.2. The sort can be based on the content of one or more columns.
Good. Now you guys should be familiar with this here. You should have learned this in primary school and even maybe in some of your maths classes, how to sort data, how to put them in a specific order. So when we say to sort data, we mean to put them in an order, and that order could either be ascending order or a descending order. So say for instance, you guys can look at the list of names that we have right now in class. You can look at the list of participants. And if I say to sort the first name in ascending order, what basically do I mean? What order would you put it in? Using,
Start from A to Z,
From
alphabet
A to
order.
B.
so what would that be right now?
Sorting.
Anaya,
Oh,
Jim, Gwen, Giovanni, Alicia, Ryan, Tamiko, Tier, Tamiko.
Good. Well, actually, it's already in alphabetical order. It's already sorted. I just realized that. So if you look at the list of participants right now, it's already sorted. So this is a perfect example of sorting. The first names are already sorted in ascending order based on the first name. So this is one way that we look for certain types of data. When we sort our data, we put it in a specific order. Because once we know the order of the data, we know what to look for. So for example, this list here, if I wanted to know whose name starts with the letter S, when I sort the data in ascending order, even if I did it in descending, I know all of the names that begin with S will be grouped together. So that's an easy way to find those persons who begin with S, who begin with R, whatever letter it may be. Same for numbers. When you sort them in whatever order, you know that a specific number will be in a specific location. So that is why we sort our data. So it's important to remember the order. When we say ascending, we basically mean the lowest to the highest. So that's going to be A to Z, 1 all the way up. And when it comes to date, that's where it might confuse persons, but it's still the same, the lowest date to the highest date. Descending, highest to lowest, and same for the date also. Alright, so how do we sort our data? Well, it says that you click any cell in the column. Notice this here. Click any cell in the column that you want to sort. So notice it doesn't say to highlight anything. It doesn't say to highlight the column. It doesn't say to highlight the table, it says to click any cell in the column. After you would have clicked, you can then click on the sorting icon, or you can do the right click and use the sorting option. So let's look at that. I think I'll have to create a table. We're gonna work on this table here. Bigfoot, 60. Gonna try to for that. Handling price. Good. So we have data here. Now, say for instance, I want to sort these items that they have here alphabetically. I want to sort them A to Z, ascending order. Remember I said you simply click on the cell inside of the column. Any one of these cells. You're not highlighting like this here. You click on any one. So, whichever one you want to sort, you click on any one of the cells. So I'm going to click on Bigfoot, and you can actually, there's 3 locations where you can sort. Right on the Home tab, if you go all the way to the right, you're going to see A to Z, sort A to Z. So when I click on that, notice the headings didn't move, it just sorted the data. So notice Bigfoot at the top, cheese stick, Ranlin, she, and all of that at the bottom. Once again, I'm going to click on Tom, and I'm going to go to the data tab now. So this is the other location, and we're going to see sort here also. And I'm going to click on the descending, lowest, the highest to the lowest. So notice Tom is on the top now, Bigfoot at the bottom. Now that's the second location. The third location is right clicking. So you can right click any one of the cell. You can go to sort and you pick the order that you want. So I can right click on this 40 here. Click on sort, smallest to largest, and it just sorted the data in the entire table. Now, what happens when you highlight the data and you go to sort? What's going to happen? As I said, you cannot do that. When you click on sort, you're going to get this error message here. Microsoft Excel found data near your selection. Basically, if you highlight and you try to sort, only what you just highlighted will get sorted. So for example, I'm going to continue with the sorting with this what I just highlighted here. And notice what's going to happen. I'm going to click sort. The numbers did not change. The items change. So if I undo, notice Bigfoot was 6034, this row here. I'm going to highlight it. And I'm going to highlight this here once again. Click continue. And notice the difference here. Bigfoot gone at the top, and the related data for Bigfoot remained at the bottom. That's what happens when you highlight for sorting a single column. Remember, that's only for a single column. You do not highlight because it's going to mix up the data, and you don't want that. So that's why you just only do one click and do your sorting. Are you guys clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright. So that is how you sort one column of data. Now, how do you sort by more than one column or more than one type of data? Well, we're not going to go through this. We're going to look at the example. So now is when you might want to highlight the table, but you actually don't need to, because spreadsheet can automatically detect a table. It can automatically detect that all of this information is inside of this table here. So you can click anywhere. I'm going to click on tree. and it's going to recognize the entire table. So what do we need to do if we want to sort the information by two columns at the same time? So in order for you to see this clearly, I'm going to need more Bigfoot. Alright, so we got 3 Bigfoot there. Alright, so that's how we're going to see this more clearly. So I'm going to click on the 30, and what you're basically looking for is custom sorts. Remember what we're doing right now. What we looked at so far is that when you click on a cell and you go to sort, you're sorting only one column. But how can we sort 2 columns at the same time? Well, as I mentioned, you click on a cell, any cell that you want, and you go to custom sort. So the same option over here, or you can go to data. The data, you notice the sort option here, and that's going to give us this custom sort box. If you right click and you go to sort, you're going to see custom sort at the bottom here, and the same box it's going to give you. So this box here is where you customize your sorting. You see exactly what you want to sort. So the information at the top here relates to how much columns you want to sort. So the levels basically refer to column. Add a column, delete a column, copy a column. So if you notice, one column was already added because obviously we got to sort something, so it was already added, the quantity column. So I'm going to change this to items. So notice I clicked on this arrow here. I'm going to change it to items. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another column, add another level. And if you notice what it's saying here, it's going to sort by items. So what this means, it's going to sort this first column first, items, then by whatever I select here. So for example, price. So it's going to sort the item column and then go and sort price. So let me show you guys what's going to happen. So this here is called a double sort because I'm sorting 2 columns at the same time. Anybody want to make a guess what's going to happen? Let me see. I'm going to put this in Z to E. And so that's going to come down. Good. And this here as smallest to largest. Good. Based on what I have here, anybody want to make a guess what might happen?
Sir, it's either that the data is going to become confusing, mixed up, or you're going to get an error. I'm not sure.
All right. What if it's neither?
Sir, I think that's understandable. I don't know.
All right. So let me show you guys what really is this levels of sorting. So I'm going to click OK. And I want you to pay attention to the data. Now, the items, if we go back to the sort, notice for the items, I sorted Z to A. I'm going to close off the box. So remember that Z to A is descending, items. T is lower than C, and then C is lower than B. So it's going highest to lowest, descending. You guys following there? This is descending, right? Z to E. You guys following?
Yes, sir.
Good. So items is in descending order. You can see that. T, C, and B. It's in descending. Now, we have an additional level of sorting, an additional column of sorting. So when with this here now, we're sorting two columns at the same time. So that is why I put three Bigfoots, because when you have similar names is when you're going to see it more clearly. Now, I'm going to go back to the sort. That happened because I highlighted. Good. So notice for the second part, price is smallest to largest. Price is smallest to largest. So at the top, I'm going to have the smallest number, and at the bottom, I'm going to have the largest number. Now, do you notice that's happening here for Bigfoot? Notice
Yes, sir.
I have 60 and I have 80. But if you look at the top, I have 102, 100. So a person might look at it and say that that is not smallest to largest, because 100 at the top here, 102, and then we have 30, 60, 80. That's not smallest to largest. But we didn't sort the entire column. What we basically did is that we sorted this item column first. And you can see that within the item column, within a certain section, this yellow section of this item column, what we did is that similar wordings, those similar words, we sorted the price in that section. So that is why I named these the same, because if I didn't, you won't see it in this order here. It's only when similar words come together would you be able to see the second column in a sort. So this here, you can think of it as you're sorting this column here. Say I'm going to do over the sorting, because a more logical way is going to be, we're going to sort the item. Just pretend it's a business. And we're going to put this as, I'm going to add in a cheese stick. I'm going to add in a cheese stick. 120, 120. And I'm going to add another. Maybe Tom there. What else? What else? Twix. How do you spell Twix? Is that Twix? Is that how you spell Twix? Imagine nobody knows how to spell Twix.
Sir, I think so.
Alright, good. So notice we have a table here. So a more practical example is, say we run a business. We are running a business. And these are the items, these are the prices we bought it at. So let me shade out the colors so that we can differentiate them and we can see it more clearly. So I'm going to sort the table now. I'm going to click on any cell. I'm going to click on the 65. I'm going to go to custom sort. I'm going to do double level sort, 2 levels. We can add more levels. Notice what happens when I click on add level, more appeared. But we don't need all of that. We just only need 2. So items, I'm going to select items to the first row. And I'm going to do A to Z, because that's logical. So look at my items alphabetically, A to Z. But the price, say for instance, I want to know which one of these items I overpaying on. So we're going to look at it the largest first. So this is like a good example of why you would want to do a double level sorting. So if you notice, the items are in ascending order. The B first, the C, and then the T. This here is ascending. But within those similar words, within that sorting, the price now is going to be in descending order. So because I have these similar Bigfoot, we're gonna see a descending order for price. Because I have these cheesesteak here, we're gonna see a descending order for the price for those two cheesesteak. Same for the Twix here also. You guys think you get any idea? Or are you still lost?
There is still lost. Sir, why you breathe like that?
No, I was stretching. It wasn't because of you. Um,
Okay.
I'm thinking anybody else in Anaya's position?
Sure, me as well.
Alright. So, do you guys understand? Let me start simple first. Do you guys understand that when I right click on this Bigfoot here and I go to sort and I say Z to A, it sorted this items column only? You guys understand that so far?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
So, and I turn it. Kivani turn on the microphone does the Yes, so when you whatever column you right click on, if I right click on quantity and I click on largest to smallest, it's gonna sort that column there. It's gonna sort that specific column. But there are certain situations where you might want to sort two columns, three columns at the same time. Not just one column, two, three, four, five at the same time. And that's with the example that I have here. For example, you might have similar items. So yes, you're gonna sort the items alphabetically. Bigfoot first, cheese stick, and then Twix. So this column here is alphabetical. But the price now for that item, you want it in a specific order. For example, maybe you want it in descending order because you want to see basically you got to think of it like a business side, the business aspect of it. You want to see which item you overpaying for because remember for business, the more you pay in, the more loss you're gonna have. So you want to see which one of these items I am overpaying for. So that is why even though for items you put it in ascending order, at the same time you still want to see for the price, you want to put it in a descending order with next to those items also. So that is why you would sort both columns at the same time. And in order for you to do that is when you select any one of the cells, you go to data or any one of the custom sort option and you click on this box here. And this box gives you the ability to sort two columns at the same time. So this first row here is allowing us to sort one column. Each one of these rows allow us to sort one column. So we can say which one of the column do we want to sort. Do we want to sort item, price, or quantity? So just like how we right clicked, say for instance, we right click on price and we go smallest to largest and sorted. That's basically what this is going to do here. Instead, we're not right clicking, we are just telling it what to sort. So we can say sort items, but put it in ascending order, A to Z. Now, we want another column to sort. Within those items, within the similar items, within the groupings, you got to think of the items like a whole new group. Like if it's a whole separate table now. Like if it's a section of the table now. That's how you have to think of it. That's why I shaded it off. These Bigfoots now, when you sort it, it becomes like a section of the table. And within that section now, the other column is going to be sorted. It doesn't sort the full column. It only sorts within that section. So when you add a level, it's gonna sort the items A to Z, and whichever other column, say for example price, largest to smallest. Notice we have all of the items, just like if we right clicked on it and we say largest to smallest, Z to A, sorry, A to Z, it's in that order. But each similar word, as they get sorted together, you can say it becomes like a mini table. Think of it that way, like a mini table. And that mini table now, the column, the next column, whichever column you checked, whichever column you selected, is going to get sorted. So in this case here, it was the price column and it got sorted. That's why I shaded off yellow. It got sorted descending 80, 60, 30 within this section here. Any clearer or is still lost?
I think I have a better understanding of it. Not totally there, right? But yeah, I think I get the main point.
What part you don't understand? Or you don't know what you don't understand?
I don't know what I don't understand. But yeah, I feel like if I read it or watch probably recording, I can get a better understanding of it. But yeah, I'm good, sir.
Um, Jamaica?
Sir, like Anaya, I also don't quite understand it, but it is a bit clearer now.
Sir,
Mm-hmm.
can I make an attempt at explaining it?
You may.
Okay. So y'all open back up your participation list, right? And remember earlier we analyzed the fact that it's already started in alphabetical order, right? But imagine that this participant list is a table in spreadsheets, right? And under the tables, there's first name, last name, and status. So Anaya would be on the first name, Matthew would be on the last name, and there's nothing under your name for status, right? So that this assume that that's empty. But if you look at it, Sir Chris appears in the participant list twice. According to the how it did it is being sorted, the first thing they look at is first name. When I look at first name, Chris appears twice. So it is placed before B, I'm sorry, after B and before D, like it would in alphabetical order, right? So after that is done, it would look into the second criteria for sorting, which would be last name. But the same last name appears twice, which is Chris. So it's still the same problem again. So after that, they look into status, and if you see that Sir appears once as meeting host and once as participant, right? And M, in ascending order, M comes before P. So meeting host appears before presentation. So because of the fact that the first name and last name were the same, it went to the other layer of sorting, which was status.
Now, I understood everything
Make any
you
sense?
said, but I don't think they did.
Yeah, I understand.
I
Yeah.
thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Once they did. Hopefully they did. Alright. Well, we gotta move off from that. When we come to the exercise, when we do the presentation, once again, we're gonna go through it. Alright, we're at 8:47, so I guess we can just look at the simple filter, and then we're gonna wrap up here. So next week we're gonna start with the advanced filter. because that one is a bit more technical. That one's gonna take up some time, just like the double sorting. Um, Realistically, it's not important for you to understand how the information gets sorted, but it would be good if you understand it. Like what I'm talking about is this double level sorting here. It's not important. I would say it's important because you should understand um, something gets sorted A to Z, how the data gets shifted around. But I guess the technical part is the different sections and so on. But the more important thing for you to remember about these double level sorting or these multiple columns of sorting is basically how to do it. That's the most important part to remember. How to do it. So, as I mentioned, you basically select any cell, it detects the table, you click on the custom sort, and depending on how many levels the question asks you for, say for instance it only asks you for one level, you only put one level. If it asks you for three level, you clicked on the add level and you have three levels here. So once you see three levels, it basically means you're sorting three different columns. So that's the important part to remember. How to add your level, how to select the order, and you have to remember it's gonna go in the order top to bottom. You sort item, then price, then quantity, and then you select which one the order you want. And also something I didn't mention, this is just a side note, but if you notice, there's a third drop down box here that I wasn't talking about. If you click on it, you're gonna notice that by default you sort values that are inside of the cells. Whether if it's letters, whether if it's numbers, that is where you're sorting. But you can also sort cell color. You can also sort font color. That's how powerful it gets. Did you guys know that colors in computer they represent a certain number?
No, sure.
No, sir.
Yeah, well, they actually do. And I think, I'm not sure, not 100% sure, but I think that is how they would sort it. Based on those, based on the number. Each color represents a number, and I would assume that is how they would sort colors. Oh, but it has it here, what color you wanted to sort by, and so on. So I guess that could be incorrect. Either way, just note that you can sort colors. Alright, so the last thing we're looking at is filtering. What is filtering? Ranlin, can you read for us?
Filtering records. Filtering is the process of selecting some of the records of a worksheet on the basis of certain criteria. Excel will list only those records that match the selection criteria and hides the others. The full set of data can be viewed at any time. Excel has autofilter and advanced filters. Autofilter allows selection criteria based on only a single field, while advanced filtering allows more complex selection criteria.
Alright, so the first thing to note, the first question, what is a criteria? That's the first thing we need to understand.
SAR criteria is a specific standard to be met.
A standard to be met. Anyone else? What's the phrase I would use when I'm talking about criteria? Or what's the word would I use? To simplify it. It starts with Q.
Sir, what's
Sir,
that?
qualification
What was that?
or question, right?
Question. So, whenever you come across criteria, to simplify it, however you understand it, to simplify it, think of it like a question. It's asking a question. Is something greater than? Is something more less than? Is it equal to? Is it not equal to? Whatever the case may be, that's the criteria. It's looking for some sort of standard, some sort of uh, specific type of data that it must match this criteria. And I would usually say that's like a question. You're asking like a question. So that is how filtering works. So remember, we're looking at how to search for data, how to search for data. So we already looked at sorting, the single column and the double column. So the next option is filtering your data. So when we say to filter, what do we mean? When you're using a filter, what happens?
Sir, it basically streams something and keeps what is necessary or what is wanted.
Right? Good. So it blocks out something and it only shows whatever you want it to show. So for example, if you put a filter in your phone, those dark filters, they're gonna block out from seeing at a certain angle, and only you can see when you're looking at it straight on. That's a filter. Same thing with auto filter and advanced filter, the two filters that we have. That's important to remember. What are the two filters? And I said auto filter is also called a simple filter. So a filter, it blocks out basically the data that you don't want to see, and it shows you the data that meets the criteria, that meets the question. So say for instance you want to see all prices that are less than 3,000. What it's gonna do? It's gonna block out everything that greater than 3,000 and only show you what is the items that are 3,000. So that's what a filter does. As I mentioned, we have two types of filter: auto filter and simple filter, and we have the advanced filter. Now, why is it called a simple filter? Why do we call the auto filter a simple filter? Well, because you can only use a single field or a single criteria. Only one question you can ask. You can only ask if something is less than only one column. You could only ask about one column. If it is less than, more than, whatever the case may be, whatever you're going to ask, you can only ask one column. Whereas the advanced filter now will allow you for two or more criterias. It's more complex. The criteria is more complex because you can do two or more criterias. You can do two, you can do three, you can do four, how much ever you need based on your columns that you have. So that's the two important things there to remember. What are the two types of filters? Auto filter and advanced, and their criteria. How much criteria can they handle? Simple filter, auto filter is only one. Advanced filter, any amount basically. Depends on how much columns the table would have. Alright, so we're not going to go through that paragraph there. I'm basically going to show you how to use the auto filter. So to use the auto filter, it's actually very simple. You once again select any cell inside of your table. Remember I said spreadsheet automatically detects that you have a table once you select a cell. After that now, you're going to go to the data tab. Right next to sort, if you notice, there's advanced and then there's a filter. So this filter by itself is the auto filter, the simple filter. And the advanced that you see in here is the advanced filter. So we're going to look at the simple filter. All you need to do is click on this funnel here. And what's going to happen is that some arrows appear in the headings. You guys see the arrows here?
Yes, sir.
If you want to turn off the filter, you basically click on it and notice the arrows disappear. So once you see it highlighted, like you see it right now, that means auto filter is turned on, and once you click on it again, it is turned off. So how do we use it? So I'm going to turn it on. How do we use it? Well, you need to click on the arrow for the column that you want to filter. So for example, items, we have two sorting options here, but that's not the main focus. The main focus is the filter. Now at the bottom here, we're going to start from the bottom. These checkboxes here, you can think of this like a manual filter. Say for instance, I don't want to see Bigfoot. I check it off. Okay, I don't see Bigfoot anymore. Click back on the arrow. I don't want to see cheese stick. I want to see the Bigfoot. Okay, now I'm seeing, I do not see cheese stick. Click back on the arrow again. I don't want to see Twix, or I only want to see Twix. And I uncheck everything else. Okay. And that is a simple way of using the auto filter. But imagine if there was a lot more data here, those check-in would take a lot of time. So the more effective method would be to use this filter option here. And if you notice, it's basically the same question. Is something equal to? Does it not equal to? For example, this is deal with text. Does it begin with a certain letter? Does it end with a certain letter? So for example, equal. We can say, is it equal to Bigfoot? And click OK. I notice we have Bigfoot here. We can say, does it not equal to? So if I type in Twix, I won't see any Twix. I'm going to see Bigfoot and cheese stick. It's not equal to Twix. I could say begin with. Begin with what letter? I can say begin with big. Okay? So notice those are all my criterias. And it's looking for the criteria and only showing me that criteria, that data, ending with IX, because IX is the end of Twix, right? So the end IX, okay? Notice I got two Twix there. So it's that simple to filter data. Contains, does it contain a certain letter? O. Contains two O, okay? Bigfoot contains two O's inside of it. So that's the power of the simple filter. You can look for something that equals to, does not equal to, it beginning with something, but that's for text. Notice when we click on price, we're going to see basically the same thing, but we're going to see number filter. And notice the other questions here. Equal, not equal, greater than equal to, less than equal to, between, top 10, average, below average. You guys, you guys should have an idea of what all of these here does, right? All of these questions, less than, equal to, between, and all of that. It's the same criteria, the same questions we've been going over and over all the time. So are you guys clear on how to use the simple filter?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Alright. So it should be simple for you to use. You select a cell, you click on the simple filter, click on the auto filter icon, the arrow appears, and you basically put in your filter. That's simple. Nothing too complicated. You select the column, but as the paragraph mentioned, you can only do one criteria at a time. So if I do quantity and I unchecked all of this, I think it's actually gonna work. And I don't want to see cheese stick. Yeah, it's actually gonna work. I wonder if it's referring to equal to bits. Yeah, it's actually doing more criterias than at the same time. Because it's only showing 4 to out of 4. Yep, it's doing more at the same time. Maybe they've updated it, and maybe the older version was only allowing one type of criteria, but now they would have upgraded it. But the main thing to remember is how to use the simple filter. Alright, so let's review quickly what we looked at so far, the main things to remember. So remember what it means to format. So in the future, when you have assignments, when you have SBA, and I tell you to format your data, you know what that means. Change the appearance. Put it in a suitable appearance. You change the font, you change the color, you change the number appearance, you add your comma, your decimal places, your dollar sign, your percentage, whatever the case may be. You fix the alignment. All of that refers to formatting. And then lastly, we looked at how do we search for data. Well, you can sort. Remember what it means to sort in ascending and descending. And when you're sorting one column, you only have to click that column. That's all. Just click on the column and you sort. But when you want to sort two columns, that's when you have to use the custom sort option. Remember that. And then lastly, we looked at what are the two types of filters we have in Excel: auto filter and advanced filter. And we just debunked that it does not use a single field. So yeah, we just looked at how to use a simple filter. So next week we're going to look at how to use the advanced filter and hopefully finish off the chapter. Any questions before we conclude?
Yes, sir.
Alicia? Shahim?
Yes, sir.
Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Sierra?
Yes, sir.
Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Alright, if no questions, we shall close off here for tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night.